talk about today. Angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. Angle, side, angle is pretty easy. It's two angles, side in between. Two angles, side in between. It's the exact opposite of side angle side. Two sides and an angle between, well, two angles and a side in between. Then when you get to angle, angle, side, it just means you have two angles in a row and the side after it. Two angles and then a side after. So the lettering tells you the direction that things are going. Three sides in a row, that's pretty easy. Two sides, an angle in between. Two angles, a side in between. Two angles and a side after. Or two angles and a side before. Angle, angle, side is the same thing as sides, angle, angle. There's just no angle, side, side. Remember yesterday? No ass in that. Oh, there's no ass in that. I promise. We'll get that. Yeah, the one we talked about a little yesterday, I mentioned that we'll have one called hypotenuse leg. We're not going to look at that until next week sometime. We'll look at that. So right off the bat, let's just go right to a proof and show an example of how one of those may or may not work. And there's one thing on this that I want to kind of help set you guys up in case you don't have a clear-cut version on your progression sheet. Progression sheets, they are not being taken away from you. You can use them on quiz and on the test. We have not rewritten. We have to still rewrite our final. When we get to doing that, usually our finals are written out in terms of multiple choice. We've never used progression sheets on finals because we don't have you guys do them by hand. We haven't made a decision yet because we haven't had a chance to sit down and collaborate on that to decide what's going to look like. But in past years, we haven't used this on finals because it's multiple choice, so it's really hard to screw it up, to be honest with you. Yeah, for any quiz and test on this, you can have it. I have run out of clean copies, and I was telling 7-8 last hour, a couple of kids had asked if they could get a clean one so they can rewrite it because their handwriting kind of sucks, for lack of better terms. So what I'm going to do tomorrow or later on today, so I'm going to make some a handful of extra copies. So that way, if you want to rewrite, it's not a bad idea, because if you rewrite out your progression sheet a couple times, or as you go through, it kind of forces you to know what position you wrote it in. Oh, it's a bisector. I put that here. It kind of helps train your eyes to where something is. Plus, it also kind of reemphasizes studying a little bit. You know, if you wrote down midpoint, you knew that you have to have second because you just had written it down recently. But let's talk about this one, though. What do you think the very first thing you should do is? Go figure. Well, after you draw it. Sorry, I didn't mean to get out too far out ahead of you here, so I'll give you another second. Sorry about that. Given here says that angle CA is 9 angle B. So I write it out. Angle CAB figure into angle DAB. What do I do with my diagram? Mark it. That's the other super important thing to do when you're working on proofs, guys. You always want to mark your diagrams. Proofs are one of those things that, even though you're using the sheet to kind of help you guide yourself through it, if you have a visual representation of what world you're looking at, it makes that final step of what process do I have, side, 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 and side. If you have them marked up, that last step is easy because you know what to do. So we mark them. C, D, D, A, E, those two. Okay. Nothing left on that one, so go on to the next one. Excuse me. D, A, E, A. Our next one. Very good. Now, on your progression sheet, you don't have something that says that. You have something about perpendicular, don't you? On your progression sheet, you have something about perpendicular. You have something that says if you have perpendicular, then you have right angles. Reason was definition perpendicular. Then after that, it says right angles are congruent, because all right angles are congruent. Well, in this case, it's just ever so slightly different. Instead of being given perpendicular to start with, you're basically given the second step of that progression. You're given the right angles. So the other classes thought it would be easier, instead of trying to have to remember this every time, just to make an extra square, if given right angles. Let's do that. So one of the things we can do then is we just have to backtrack our ideas of what happens. Well, we all know that if you have right angles, that all right angles are going to be congruent to each other because they all measure the same, no matter what. So if we're given right angles, what we would do is we would state right angle congruent to the right angle. Now, you wouldn't say state the right angles because you were already given them. So it's a little bit different. Let's show it. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Example. Angle B and angle E are right angles. There's my given. So if I'm following the idea of given right angles, the next thing would be to do would be to say that the right angle is congruent to the right angle. Well, what are the two right angles that I just gave you? Angle B and angle E. No. What do you know about all right angles? That's the reason. I'm glad. I have that trusting face here. That's the idea of how this stuff can be interpreted from what you're given to what you can do with it. And you'll see that from time to time. Sometimes they'll give you a right angle right off the bat. Sometimes they'll tell you a perpendicular. They're both very, very similar. If you're given that you have right angles, it's one less step than you are given perpendicular. You don't have to say that you have right angles because you just were given that. So if we use this information on the prior proof, B and E are right angles, well, what am I going to say then? Angle B and then back to my diagram then, I make the little boxes here. What do you mean? No, because right angles are the only ones that are having a square box. That's a good question. You don't have to mark them with double ticks. Do we have congruent triangles now? What's the method? Angle, side, angle. We have two angles and the side in between. Now I want to show you something that's kind of cool. Now, if I'm looking at the information that was given in the reasons that we gave, we have a total of 10 things we had to write out. We have 5 statements and 5 reasons. You okay with that? Now, think about what you have on your progression sheets. Think about what you were given. How many of those things, of those 10 things, did you have to legitimately find on your own? 1. You only had to figure out one part of all 10 of those on your own. That one part was that. And that's the easiest part. 90% of that proof is here. Really? 90% of that proof is right here. It's a matter of following that in your givens, following through with the givens, marking your diagram, and using this. You only have to use your brain for 10%. You guys be like, sweet. Think. I'm not saying that you're really using small amounts of brain. So you're kind of pseudo complaining a little about being a little bit on this, but I want you to understand. Have that progression sheet in front of you. It's a matter of using the resources available to you at the time to reference back and forth about what to do. Because it's right there, right? You have yours still, right? No. Well, if you ask really, really nicely, maybe somebody will text a picture of it to you. Because I know how much you love to be on your phone. That way you can look at it for right now. Maybe if they did that, they can text a picture of it with like your face next to it, so you can stare at yourself as you're writing it. And I'll get you, a fresh sheet for your writing up. Are you like this all day long? I forgot to save it. Try another one. This one's got a perpendicular line. So take a few minutes. Use your sheet. All right. As we go through these, remember, I know that the one homework problem last night had 2 sets of perpendicular. Now, when you have perpendicular, you have to go through the progressions of stating those other 2 things. So anytime you see perpendicular, automatically it means you'll have 3 steps. Write it down the given, go to right angles, and say that the right angles are congruent. So right there's 3 steps you're going to be able to generate because that's what your sheet tells you to do. So we have VB, perpendicular AC. Now, according to my diagram then, that means I have angle ADB So right away, it was perpendicular. Your progression sheet says you have right angles. Your progression sheet now says to say that they're congruent. So right away, once you have that perpendicular, you've got two next steps. If you said DBA, DB, or BBC, it's fine. Still, the D's at the right angle part, as long as that's the vertex is there, you're perfect. Can't say angle D. Yeah, you can't say angle D. You are using the angle symbol? Even better. So guys, you guys asking, does the letter order matter? As long as D is in the middle, fine, because that's where the right angle is. Go to your next one. Your next one said BD bisects ABC. Thank you. All right. Now, according to your sheet, what happens when you have an angle bisected? Angle congruent angle. Very good. So we have to look at the diagram to figure out what are the letters. Okay. It tells me that there's going to be two angles that are created because this cut this angle into two parts. CBD. I don't know. I couldn't tell if you said D or B for the second letter. Said B. Okay. I just didn't. I that's one downfall sometimes with B's and C's and A's. They all kind of sound the same. Yes, ma'am. You can do the givens first and then go for it, but my suggestion is that if you write down this, do this next, because, and I think that's what happened with Olivia, is that she went to her next given, and you might forget that you have to put that there. You'll know, oh, I got to mark the diagram, I know this is going to happen. And without saying that it actually occurred, it didn't occur. Does that make sense? Joe, you had a question? All right. Yes, ma'am. It's frowny faced, but it's okay because you're doing it. So we go through here. We know our two letters. It's A B D C D B. So angle A B D is congruent to angle C B B. Does definition. All right. So we have two angles. That means we have to find a side in between them or a side after them. Segment BD is congruent to segment BD. Yeah, so BD, it's okay, but you're right. Segment BD is congruent to itself because of what property? There we go. Now, if you look at it, how are the two triangles congruent? Side angle. ABD, CBD. You can't. If you skip a step, it doesn't occur. You don't have any side angle. You have it marked as angle side. That's not even right. Does it say anything that does it say anywhere that piece of midpoint? Chase, you got something? Oh. That's fine, but the only thing I was going to say is that a lot of times people forget that there was a given there, and you just get in the habit because you know where it's going to wind up, and you'll forget something. So my suggestion is always, for every given that has something you can do it before you get to the next given. It just unmuddies it. So now, again, I want you guys to realize that we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 parts to this one. There's 14 parts there. Of those 14 parts, what didn't you have on your sheet? There's technically 3 pieces that you had to come up with on your own. You had to come up with this, those two, and that one. So of the 14 pieces, you had on the sheet of paper basically 11 of them. As you start to really think about how much that is, I think that's about 78, 79% of the proof was completed for you because of the progression sheet. You only had to come up with about 12% of it. And if you really, really, really get into the numbers, we've done 2 proofs together right now. We had 9 out of 10 and 11 out of 14, which means we do 20 out of 24 parts. If you take 20 out of 24 parts, that's 83% of your proof is on your progression sheets. I mean, seriously, these are big-time no-brainer things, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the idea. If you follow the rules that you have set up in here, it forces you to get about 80% of the material correct just by rereading this. Okay? I mean, that's how crazy this really is. And I know people always say, oh my God, it's so hard. That's what a lot of you sound like sometimes. You want. Remember that. Just take the chance and read your sheet. Okay? You'd be surprised at how much you'll actually be able to get done. Let's do one more. We got time, right? Go for it. Think of it. Ladies and gentlemen. Right off the bat, given BC is congruent to CD, what do you do to your diagram? Mark it. That itself has no definition, no rules, no nothing. It just says, hey, there's a segment, you're at some other segment. Go to the next thing. Next thing says angle B is congruent to angle D. That's also given. Mark the diagram. Nothing else I can say. No definitions, no nothing for that. Which means we have to figure something out. You'll notice we have an angle on the side, which means we have to figure out another angle after the side, or an angle prior to the other angle. So you can go angle side, or angle side angle, or we can go side angle side. There's a lot of possibilities. What's the only thing you can do? You can only go to angle side angle. In order to get there, what do you have to say? That or say, could I make it even easier? Right. And you're right by using the lettering, but see how I threw angles 1 and 2 in there? I did that on this one so it'd be a little easier to write. So and that just means I can write angle. You're not wrong by writing up the letters. It's okay. And your reason is vertical angles are congruent. So we've talked about this many, many times. When we're looking at diagrams, one of the things you can infer is vertical angles. So we know that those two angles are going to be congruent because they're vertical, which gives us our triangles at triangle ABC because of angle at angle. Now on this one only having 8 total parts to it, you had to come up with tools. So this one you knew, again, 75% of the proof is already done for you. 75% of it, well, I'm sorry, not 75%, you had to come up with 3, so that would have been, like 67% of the proof was done for you, just a little bit less than that. And that's, the reason is because there's not many steps to this one. Now, what I want you guys to do tonight are, there's 4 more proofs, and we've done a version of every single one of these, whether they are perpendicular or angle bisectors or midpoints or vertical. We've done an example of all of them. I believe it's these right here. It's on page 238. I thought it was 232. It's 238, 11, 12, 15, 14, and 15. I'll post that up here.